All right, it's the end of the experiment. And so I couldn't show you what I was seeing in my mind, right? All the palaces, if I was missing locations or anything. And I couldn't show you on the screen because if I saw the location, I would know the location, right? And so all I could really do is talk to you about what was going through my mind, what happened when I went to recall it. So this is the house I used that was just empty. So I didn't put any information in here. Now, what I did notice when I was going through the palace in my mind is that it was a little bit slower because I really didn't go through or like live in this palace, right? I wasn't placing any information, but I was still able to go through slowly and recall all the locations. Like, oh yeah, there's this bookshelf and the crib, and then when you go down the stairs, there's like these wooden hanger things. I don't know what they're called. And so I was able to recall all of the locations. And that's because, when I was going and reviewing that one last time, I was super focused on making sure I had the locations in my mind. All right? Now, this one had the Ranger's Creed in it. And so this, as I figured out, was a little bit easier. I was able to flow from one location to the next. And that's probably because I was picturing this location a lot, trying to picture my images and create the stories on each different location. And so, of course, it kind of makes sense that I would have a greater feel for this palace, kind of, have it more ingrained because I was thinking about it all the time. I was like, okay, which one was it? Okay, what's this story I'm creating again? Do I have it down? No. Let me go again. Okay, do I have it down again? And so, when I was trying to learn the Ranger Creed, I kept thinking of this location, all the different locations over and over again because I really need to make sure that I got the Ranger Creed perfect. Now, I know right now if I were to recall the Ranger Creed, I wouldn't be able to say it 100%. I would know the general words that would be in each location, but the exact order might be, off a bit. And that's because I didn't try to memorize them word for word. I tried in the beginning, but then I changed it. It was like, okay, maybe the general feel for it, me seeing the Ranger Creed over and over, reading that line again, and just having the trigger image would be enough. Because like right here, I know this is Never Shall I Fail My Comrades. That was pretty easy, here, this would be I will always see right here. I will always keep myself mentally alert, physically strong, and morally straight. And over here I see Will Smith. I will shoulder more than my fair share of the task, whatever it may be, 100% and then some. So pretty sure that was just like exact. So a lot of it I might be able to recall, but there's some things, just like the wording, I might mix it around, so it wouldn't be 100%. But yeah, so that's what I kind of realized going through is that when you have information, when you're storing information in a palace, and you want to go through the palace itself, not really worry about the images, it's that you kind of have the images pop up automatically because you were focusing so much on picturing your images at different locations. But also, the locations are so much easier to recall because you spend a lot of time looking at the location, right? Focusing, trying to place your image and stories, really making them stick. Well, in an empty palace like this one, it wasn't too hard to go through and recall it, but the speed at which I was able to go through it wasn't as fast because there was nothing really there. They weren't as fresh, they weren't really cemented into my memory. And so, 1 week without reviewing or even thinking about, which was hard because I found the page for the Ranger Creed when I was moving some stuff around. I was like, oh crap. So I just like tossed the paper to the side because it started to trigger it, So I had to be very careful not to do anything that would trigger any of these locations. And so yeah, so a week later, the palace with and without information, both of the palaces were easy to recall. And I think it really does come down to how focused you are when you're actually trying to learn your palaces. Because I didn't review for a whole week, and this blank palace right here, I was able to recall it easily. No, I didn't really struggle. Like, oh crap, what's the next location? Is it this or that? No, because when I was creating it, I know I was going to do the video, right? Do the experiment and really focus on making sure I'm able to get this palace down. And that final review was like, okay, do I got everything? Boom, solid. I'm good. And so You know, a week was pretty good. Everything was clear. The palace with information was just clear just because I had to actually use it to memorize information, which makes it as an extra layer to, you know, you being able to recall the palace itself. Because if you think of the images are going to trigger the location, and then from there you get all the locations to the palace. So yeah, so how often do you have to review your palaces? I guess it really comes down to how focused are you when you're creating them? What's the feel that you're getting? Because for me, I always have to get a feel for the palace. I can't just jump from this location, right? From a picture of this to a picture of that, and that's going to be good enough. No, it's like the flow of the palace from a location to another location that really kind of makes it easier for me to remember the whole path. And so if you just kind of create a palace quickly, then, you know, probably a week, you might have spots missing here and there. So what I recommend is really taking your time to focus on each location in your palace that you're creating and really make sure that you see it, clearly see it at the angle that you want to see it. And that's going to help the longevity of that palace without reviewing at all. So it might be a week, might be a couple of weeks. And so what I might do now is, so let's say it's over, but at the end of February, I'm going to try to mentally recall all of these different locations from this palace and from this palace. And so by then, the Ranger Creed still might be there. It might be more hazy because, you know, that's almost like a month away. And so I'm going to try that to see, you know, if I go, you know, I think it's like, it's the third today. So it's 25 days. So, so yeah, a little bit less than a month, a little bit less than 4 weeks. It would be before I actually come back and revisit these palaces in my mind. And let's see how that works there. But 1 week time, you know, pretty good still, depending on how much you're focusing and, you know, and if you have a feel for the palace. Because if a palace doesn't have a feel for it, of course, it's going to be easier to forget. But yeah, so that, those are my notes on this memory experiment. Look forward for the last part, because of course I could keep going like, oh, let me do 6 months. But there's a point where, you know, you just have to take the time out to review the palaces you have. I always make sure I have 1 day set aside to review all my palaces. I don't care if the day before I reviewed half of them. I'm just going to sit down 1 day and review every single one of them just to make sure I have them. So it's either just kind of schedule revisions of your palaces, so you don't have to like worry about, oh crap, how long has it been? It's been like 3 months since I reviewed this last palace. Great, it's probably gone. Because I went through a period where I made probably 50 palaces, 26 locations in each palace. Didn't review them for the longest time, and guess what? They're all gone, and I can't go back and recreate them or trying to find the locations because they were, when I was traveling, I created some palaces and this and that, some different places, but I can't go back and get those locations or palaces, so they're gone forever, you know? And so that's why, what I learned from that day was just set days aside to review your palaces. It's that much easier than trying to, you know, gamble like, how far can I go without reviewing, you know? So yeah, so hopefully you got a lot of good information in this video, a lot of different pieces that you can start implementing right away. I will make that last video about, you know, like 4 weeks later, how much I can still recall then. So yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.